All right, here we go. There we go. Boom. Let's do this. Boom, 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 boom. Oh, we're live on Fireside and everything. Boom, 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 boom. Hey, what's up? Hey. All right, everyone. Welcome to Crossing the Streams. We are live across all the worlds. If you're
cross them if you got them.
Cross them if you got them. This is exciting. I'm just doing a little bit. We're live on Fireside. We're live on, where else are we live? On Facebook. And we're live on Twitter.
YouTube, Jeff?
YouTube. And we are live on YouTube. We've got tons of friends everywhere.
We've done this 52 times, Jeff.
This is our 52nd episode. That means we've done 52, an entire year's worth of episodes. So if you're sitting at home going, I don't have anything to watch, and I don't know, Ron, if you're like, because we've got a lot of mutual friends, like people are like, oh, I don't know what I should be watching. And I'll be like, oh, it's unfortunate that I post the living shit out of a show that I've done 52 times. It's
that literally answers the question.
Each episode is an hour, literally answers the question, spoon feeds you everything that you should be watching.
That's true.
Right there. And so many people still say it. And it's like, and even like after a year with my podcast, live from Detroit, the Jeff Dwoskin show, it became a joke. Oh, you have a podcast? Because I would talk about it so much. But this would just get ignored. So it's funny.
Wait,
but here we are. We got
you have a podcast?
I do have fucking. We have two amazing guests today. Tim Biesiegel and Bryan Green. Bryan from the commercial break and Tim from Pop Culture Addicts to what do we do? Podcast friends. So we got an amazing thing, but we're gonna start it off. We gotta start off like we always start off.
Bring it
with the theme song.
Bring
and
it.
everyone on Fireside. When we talk about the shows, raise your hand if you want to come up and talk about what we're talking about. I'll bring you up and you can chat with us. Love to. We're going to do the theme song now.
Oh, boy.
Bryan, I'm going to let you start.
Here's the story of some lonely fellas who spend way too much time watching the TV. All of them have jobs and friends. Well, not really. Just between you and me.
Okay. That was amazing. Hey, Ron, take it away.
I'm not following that. The dude was on tune and everything.
I know.
They made a live show out of their hobby. Every TV watcher, TV watching dream. Jeff runs Sal and Bob, and there's Howard. They call it Crossing Streams.
Take it away, Tim.
And then one day they went live on all the platforms.
Okay. Tim.
Yeah, I forgot
Turn
to
the
mute
volume
over there.
down your phone.
Actually, it's not my phone. My phone volume.
It's like a Brooklyn Dodger game there. Go ahead.
I know. What's going on?
Little echo. That's all right.
There we go.
And then one day they went live on all the platforms. You could hear the people laugh and shout and scream. Still can't find another word that rhymes with platform. But man, we crossed the streams.
We crossed the stream.
We cross the streams.
We crossed the streams.
We cross the streams. That's the
We
way
do
we
it.
do it.
Here
We
we
cross the streams.
streams.
Da, 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 da.
Ba-dum-ba-dum-bum-bum.
Bum,
Dun,
bum.
dun,
All right. Well,
dun,
welcome
dun,
everybody. We got a huge audience. Very excited. So this is a weekly show. We talk about TV shows that you should be binge watching, shows that you can watch and binge. Today, we're going to talk about Maid, The Foundation, thick of it, and live in front of a studio audience that aired last night, but has 3 episodes on ABC. So we're going to talk about those. If you're on YouTube or Facebook, you can comment along and we'll talk back at you. If you're on the Fireside app, then please feel free to raise your hand and we'll talk to you. And this is where all 4 of us, we have 4 video feeds on the Fireside app. It makes it seem so real, doesn't it? Like,
Hey, we're hip. We're cool.
it's so nice. And
Plus, you got my good side with the Fireside, so that's good.
Yeah, thank you, Matthew. Thank
Makes
you.
you look 12 years younger.
For being there. So this is great. So I do want to take one quick second and thank our guests. I want to introduce Bryan Green from Commercial Break. Bryan,
A
tell us,
devilish-looking fellow.
give us a 1 second plug of your 1 minute.
The commercial break. Go listen now. You know, Jeff, you were talking about your family members and your friends and how they all seemed oblivious to the fact that you've been doing a podcast and crossing the streams for so long. It's the first lesson you'll learn in podcasting as a podcaster is that no one gives a fuck about your podcast. It's just a reality. At least your friends and family don't. So if you're not related to me or one of my current existing friends, go listen to the commercial break available on all podcast publishers. This includes my wife, who is usually clueless about what is on my particular podcast. So
My wife, never. And then we also have another return guest. Both Bryan and Tim Biesiegel are friends of the show. Tim, tell us all about your awesome podcast.
Well, Pop Culture Addicts is brand new. It's a baby show. We've only been out for 2.5, 3 months now. But it comes on the heels of my other show, Funny Science Fiction Podcast. Basically, Pop Culture Addicts is a show where we talk to people who are making and doing the things in the pop culture world. Anywhere from Carol Baskin to Stephen Perkins of Jane's Addiction to PR reps like Eileen Shapiro from World Star PR. And we've got a really cool episode coming up this next Monday. Just a quick plug for that. We got a chance to interview David Fishoff, who is the creator of Rock and Roll Fantasy Camp. And just an amazing chat with him about what that was like and the fact that he was able to lure Ringo Starr out of retirement and bring him back onto the road. So really cool conversation about that.
peace and love. No more autographs. Peace.
No more autographs. I was going to say that.
I'm like, that name sounds familiar. I'm like, oh, I interviewed him. I have a recorded interview. I won't run it till next year, though.
Stephen Perkins from Jane's Addiction. Pretty fucking cool, man. Gonna go tune that in tomorrow morning.
That's a good one.
That was a ton of fun. I'm a huge 90s music fan. Grunge era is where I kind of reside, and had to work the fanboy out before I got him on camera.
I would have too. Yeah.
How did you do that exactly, Tim?
There was giggling.
Someone worked the fanboy out. I can only imagine. I'm going to take some guesses in my head.
I played a lot of Jane's Addiction and Porno for Pyros at very loud volumes and giggled while it played, knowing that I was going to get a chance to talk to him. Actually, he's super down to earth, one of the coolest dudes I've ever met. And he gave us his sign off for the show was he had an awesome drum solo at the end because we interviewed him right in front of his kit. It was really cool.
That is pretty cool.
Sweet.
That's awesome.
So I interviewed David Fishoff too, which is one of the problems with those podcast guest sites. Everyone does it. The same one,
rounds.
Right.
Yeah.
But he was a really cool guy. I'm interested to hear your conversation, and then
well, likewise, that's one of the things I love about doing what we do is that, there are other people who have interviewed guests that have been on my show. And I like going out and hearing what other people have talked about. Like you've had people on your show and then I followed up and which, by the way, I got to talk to you after we get done. There's a couple people I need to get some contact information about. But, like you interviewed Carol Baskin. I've interviewed Carol Baskin. We had totally different interviews and different, points of view on the conversations. And I think that was kind of the fun part of it is being able to hear everybody else's takes and ideas and, whatnot.
Absolutely. And then I'm Jeff Dwoskin, host of this and live from Detroit, the Jeff Dwoskin Show. And that's my podcast. And it's
a podcast, by the way.
Nice.
It is a podcast. And it's funny because like I interviewed someone, I don't want to say who, because Tim will run and try and have a different interview, but
dang straight.
but my wife looks at me and goes, no one knows who that is. And I'm like,
Is that what she sounds like?
knows who this is. And I said, look at the picture. He goes, what are you going to do? Show everyone the picture? You just walk around going, no, this is the guy. And I'm like, all right, well, everyone will know once but it's always interesting to think like how important what these guests are to me. And then some people go, I didn't know who that was. I'm like, how did you not know who that was? But anyway, whatever. That's the life. So welcome to Crossing the Streams. We got a great show for you. This is our 52nd. Oh, I forgot Ron. Ron, what's up? Ron's my co-host here, has been with me for almost.
Find me 9:30 Wednesday nights, Crossing the Streams, and on other select quality podcasts across the United States.
Select quality podcast.
So this is our 50.
Chain.
I know. This is our 52nd episode. We have a lot of them that are for replay on Fireside, but also we have all 52 on YouTube that you can stream So it's 52 hours. Each one's an hour. It's all pretty tight. And it's all just TV shows that you should be watching. I don't think maybe we'll repeated one. Sometimes we'll recap new things if a new season comes up. So last week, episode 51, we talked about Get Back the Beatles. Howard, our host, who is not well. We wish him well. It was sat through it twice. While that may seem like, oh, well, that's 16 hours. And then our guest, Jen Fishkind, talked about The Handmaid's Tale. And then Sal talked about My Dad's Christmas Date. We've never heard of it either. And then Manhunt Unabomber.
The Unabomber. Hey, Jeff, can I just say that, regarding Get Back and the Beatles, listen, for myself, there's no bigger Beatles fan than me. I freaking love the Beatles. I have everything that they've ever produced. But I got to tell you, and this is, again, just me, I'm having a hard time with this documentary. I'm really having a hard time getting through it. I keep turning it off. I keep getting bored with it. And I'm waiting for the good moments, like when they did, when he starts creating Get Back, but those are few and far between. The banter between the guys, which is kind of irritating me. Talk me off a ledge, Jeff.
Well, I'm not gonna 100% disagree with you. I kind of watched it I'm on my bed. I'm half watching it because now there is the brilliant stuff, like the Get Back stuff.
Yep.
And
Yep.
I do enjoy just watching them. It is nice because it is such a fly on the wall documentary that you really get to see these people in a way that you never get to see anybody and their conversations that they're having and stuff like that. It is 8 hours of that now.
Yeah.
So, I always say, like, when you were like stand-up comedians, when they come and they go, he did a 2-hour show, like, no one really wants to listen to anyone for more than an hour and a half.
Yep.
You know what I mean? So, but there are pockets of brilliance in it. Like when one of the best scenes is just literally focused on a flower pot, and it's a conversation that was accidentally caught between John and Paul talking about George when George quit. Right. And so that I thought was brilliant. That was just amazing to be able to see really what people like, because that's the interesting thing about this is everyone has 50 years of Yoko broke them up, all this kind of stuff. You start to see through this version of the narrative, but George quit. Like,
you could see the fractures were already there before Yoko even, was in the fray.
And it wasn't even Yoko. It was John was in love, and we all went to college and had a guy who had a girlfriend. And it's like that's what happens.
Yep, that's what happens.
And
you got to remember, they were young and they were ready to, ready to do other things.
Right, and I could see George. Look, George Harrison to me is, if you listen to George's songs, something, and While My Guitar Gently, if I pick my favorite Beatles songs, half of them, I bet, are all the George Harrison songs, and they didn't really give him a lot. And during these sessions, like he's singing these, things shall pass, all things shall pass, and these things that became his solo stuff was all the stuff they wouldn't clear, because it was all. So I could see where like he would be frustrated. He wasn't an equal, and he, to me, did generate some of the top material. So, I could see where it just was all falling apart. But again, I'm enjoying it. And then I think as I reflect on it, I'll be glad that I saw it. But in today's episode, we're talking about Foundation on Apple Plus. The only odd thing about that is it's not Ron talking.
It's not me. I was right about to say the same thing.
Ron is Apple Plus guru. Ron will be talking about Maid on Netflix. And then the BBC classic, The Thick of It, Bryan Green will be talking about. And I was going to talk about Live in Front of a Studio Audience, which I wish Howard was here to talk about with me, but he'll recap his opinion next week. So
Howard was here.
So the format of the show is we're going to go segment by segment, and we'll talk about each show one at a time, and then see where the conversation takes us from there. Let's see who is boom. Let's see, we got Sophie Austin. Hello.
Hey, Sophie, how are you?
Lee is in town. Hey, Lee, what's up?
Nice.
Lee.
Got our friend Jared Chacon.
Jason's here.
Jason, good to
Jerry
see you,
has
brother.
me in
We got
his
Matthew and Matt,
podcast
Woody.
fantasy league. What does that even mean?
We don't know.
I'm sorry to disappoint you, Jerry.
All right, maybe all things will reveal itself. Let's go on to the first show. Let's talk about Maid.
Yeah. Yeah, Maid on Netflix yet again. Another algorithm pick for me. Had never heard of this show before 2 days ago, which should tell you something, given that this is a 10 episode, 1 hour each episode. Yes, I binged this entire show in 2 days.
You watched 10 hours in 2 days.
I watched 10 hours in 2 days, and I'm telling you, this thing hooked me immediately. I was watching it in between meetings. I stayed up late last night binging this thing. I woke up early. I'm watching it before, while I'm eating breakfast. This thing absolutely grabs you. So, but I will say it doesn't help my brand of trying to get outside of the heavy, dark themes, because once again, this is about the heaviest freaking topic you can come up with. So first off, have any of you guys seen this show or even heard about this show?
My wife binged it in 2 days also, and I found her often during that 2 days crying into some kind of pillow because, and I was like, what are you watching? So she took the time to explain it to me. I didn't get to watch it, but she was absolutely floored by it.
It is an amazing watch. Never heard of it. Like I said, Netflix just served it to me, and I was looking for a new show. I had just finished the last one, so I was ready to go on something else. I had no idea I was in a position to start binging something for 10 straight hours, and that's what I did. The show stars Margaret Qualley, and for those of you who don't know who Margaret Qualley is, this is the younger daughter of Andie MacDowell. And she got her notoriety from Once Upon a Time in Hollywood and a number of other side roles. Yeah, and she did a great job up until this thing, and I've seen her around. I thought I recognized her face when I saw her in this show. I had to go look her up. I'm like, holy crap, that's Margaret Qualley from Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. But I didn't realize that she was Andie MacDowell's daughter. So this is about again, tough topic, guys. This is a emotionally abused young woman with a 3-year-old daughter who finally gets the courage to leave this abusive lover of hers and is just completely let down by the system, by society, by the system. She's got no help. Andie MacDowell plays her mother, who is bipolar and struggling with her own issues of homelessness and other issues. Her father is an alcoholic, abusive man that through the series she has to rely on at moments of her greatest need. It's just a terrible story of how this. And by the way, this is a true story. The whole thing. It is a terrible story about how this woman has to scrape and do everything she can to provide for herself and her daughter. And she ends up taking the only job she could with no education and no ability to leverage any kind of skills. She becomes a maid. And in becoming a maid, she awakens a part of her creative self for writing, talking about the people that she is a maid for. And this helps to create a drive in her that ultimately helps to get her out of the situation she's in. But what is haunting about this show are two main themes. First off, abusive relationships are not always physically abusive. You can be completely compartmentalized and ruined as a mother, as a person, purely by emotional and verbal abuse, which they profile quite specifically in this show. And what's terrible about that is you can't prove that. It's very difficult to prove that to a court or to government agencies that need that kind of those facts to make things happen for you. And then second is that the government and all of the programs designed to help people in similar circumstances are just terrible. They're just not stacked up correctly. They're not. It's a gauntlet of things to to get around, and it is very, very difficult for people in similar circumstances to navigate the system in any kind of meaningful way to really provide any kind of support for yourself. So what ends up happening is you grab onto every little safe harbor you can find through this process of getting back on your feet. And that's what this story is about. So it doesn't surprise me to hear, that your wife was sobbing, because there are moments of it's just a devastating story. But it is one where you find yourself, understanding her issues. She makes terrible mistakes in the process. You hit your head against the wall watching this, because she's making mistakes you wouldn't have made, but you have to kind of see things through the lens of her circumstances, and then you come to understand it, and then you root for her in that context, that you hope she can navigate this, which she ultimately does. So I'll just pause there and say that I couldn't take my eyes, ears, mind off this show. Even when I wasn't watching it, I was thinking about it. Annie McDowell, who I have to say I've never thought was a good actor. I laugh at her at 4 Weddings and a Funeral. And as Margaret Qualley's character's mom, bipolar on the show, is absolutely stellar. Stellar character, stellar acting job. So I recommend it. It is heavy, so if that's not your thing, totally get it. But if you can make it through an emotional roller coaster, I think this show's for you, because it really has left a great impression for me. Yeah. And that is Maid.
Yeah, I think my wife was mentioning that amongst all of the other topics that you detailed nicely, that there's a lot of interpersonal stuff that she related to too, relationships with mom, and relationship with dad, and relationships with new friends, old friends. She said there's so many topics that are touched on from the point of view of a woman. She said one of the things that really struck her is, what happens if all of it goes away tomorrow? What happens, she's married to me and all this other stuff. What happens if you go away tomorrow? What happens if you die tomorrow? What do I do? How do I pick up? Where do I go? What do I do? And it really got her thinking, and it started a lot of conversations inside this show started conversations internally inside of this house that maybe should have been had a long time ago, that we never really thought about. And I think this kind of got her brain going in a bunch of different directions. And I just learned 2 days ago in research for my own podcast that Maid is the second most watched by hours television program in Netflix history. Netflix history.
Oh, wow.
It is on an absolute momentum. Like it is crazy. It's going to be one of Netflix's biggest shows. One last thing, if you didn't know this, it was actually produced by Margot Robbie and her husband Tom Ackerley. Oh, wow. So I don't know what their affiliation is with this set of circumstances, but they saw something in this. There's the original book. Was written. It's called Maid: Hard Work, Low Pay, and a Mother's Will to Survive. It's by a woman named Stephanie Land. So that's the original content for this story. But I'll just say one last thing, and then we can move on to something hopefully more uplifting. And that is that I'm the father of 3 daughters. My wife and I have three daughters, and I will just say this: this show reinforced something that we always talk about with our daughters, that you can never, ever, especially as a woman, rely on anyone else. You must always be self-sustaining. You must always be in a position to take care of yourself and not rely on anybody, even as a mother. So I think that was completely reinforced in this show. So very difficult to watch it in the other way.
Important discussions.
Very powerful. Very powerful. Carmen says, it seems like it brings awareness. Opening the door for conversation can be good.
Absolutely.
And hello, Carmen.
Hey, Carmen.
That was great. That was great, Ron. Thank you.
Yeah, appreciate it
So much. Yeah. And
hopefully you're going to put some show that makes us laugh or something a little more uplifting. Come on.
I don't know I don't even know what these other shows are. The
I never bring anything serious, so just if you want
Is
me
it
to
what-
go, I'll go.
I'm hoping it's going to be another Sal Christmas show or something. No? Is that-
well, we have the Foundation. The Foundation
oh, nice.
from Apple, which looks sci-fi. But
Very.
Tim's going to tell us everything we need to know about Foundation on Apple.
All right. So Foundation. Yeah. Now this is based off of Isaac Asimov's work. There's a book series called The Foundation. Now, in all honesty, I've never read a single Isaac Asimov book. I'm a huge sci-fi fan. Never read an Asimov book. Never been interested in his work. It just never really spoke to me. But for whatever reason, I watched trailers for this show and I was drawn to it. I wanted to see what was going on with it. So yeah, you do find Foundation on Apple TV Plus. It's one of the many shows that are on there that I will be intaking to my brain here shortly. There's so much quality entertainment on Apple TV Plus right now that it's ridiculous. Anyway, so like I said, this is based off Isaac Asimov's work. His daughter Robin is one of the executive producers, his only child, and she's kind of overseeing this. So the whole premise of this is that there is the Galactic Empire, and at any one time there are 3 versions of the Emperor. There's Brother Dawn, Brother Day, and Brother Dusk, and they are clones of the original Emperor, whose name was Cleon. And so they're in different stages of life, and it's pretty self-explanatory: young, middle-aged, next to death. Anyway,
Which episode does Tom Cruise show up and ask for your money?
Every time a spaceship takes off. I believe there's at least 3 ships named Xenu. Anyway, it's a really strong cast, and I think that's one of the things that drew me to it at first, because there was a lot of people that you see in the show who were an ensemble cast, people that were off on different shows, smaller things, but yet there's a couple people on there who are like, when you see them, you're like, I've seen that person, I know him from something. And one of those is one of the main characters who's played by Jared Harris, who, if the name doesn't ring a bell to you, he was also Professor Moriarty in the Sherlock Holmes movies, not the TV show, but going up against Robert Downey Jr. in those movies. So he does a really good job with that. And he plays Harry Seldon, who's this like mind-blowing mathematician, and he's brought up something called psychohistory that he believes can help predict the future and what's going to happen. And his prediction is that the Galactic Empire is going to crash. And the only way to save the Galactic Empire from destruction is to defy it and start a new group called the Foundation. And that's kind of where this happens. And so right now it's 10 episodes in season 1. They're all 1-hour episodes. And season 2 is, I believe, been shot and edited, or editing, I believe. And I believe they are going for season 2, I think September to November, sometime in 2022, which I'm really looking forward to, based on everything that I've seen in season 1. But one of the best characters in the show to me is Brother Day, who's played by Lee Pace. Again, the name didn't mean a whole lot to me, but the face and the voice did. If you close your eyes and you hear him talk, it's Ronan from Guardians of the Galaxy. That deep voice, and the menacing sounds and all that. He's got just that deep, rich voice, and it just you pay attention to it right away. But it's interesting to see how these 3 work in coordination, one to the other, and how in one episode, Brother Day is talking about things in the present, and then later on, he's talking about how he's talking to Brother Dusk as, well, when you were my age, and now, so there's the transference of age, and they do this a couple times throughout the series, where it's so to show that time is passing and that things have, because in one episode it says it's happening now. A couple episodes later, it's 35 years later, and so they're it helps the timeline of the story. But yeah, it's all about this group of people called the Foundation who get exiled to this planet set way out on the outer rim, outer reaches. Excuse me, outer rim is Star Wars. Slightly different. But yeah, but it's really kind of cool. And I kind of joked with my daughter as we were watching it that it's kind of like Star Wars meets Dune, because some of the terminologies are the same. There's sand planets and there's, all this kind of stuff. It's just, but I will say the cinematography in this show and the CGI is mind blowing. Absolutely mind blowing. The stuff that they're doing in the show, fantastic. Yeah. So for somebody who never got into Asimov's work, for somebody who, I love sci-fi, but you don't have to know Asimov's work to appreciate the show, the direction it goes, and it's really very well written, and each of the episodes really kind of hooks you right in from the beginning and carries you through. I hated having to stop watching the episodes in between if I had to go do something else, because I wanted to see what was going to happen in the very next episode. There was almost like little mini cliffhangers at the end of each.
Wow.
I think that's the way they do binge TV now. It's almost like that's part of, that's the whole formula at the very end.
Oh yeah.
So one of the creators of this is David S.
Oh yeah, I was going to bring that up. Thank you.
Who's from Ann Arbor, Michigan, and he everyone knows who this guy is. He wrote Batman Begins. He wrote or created the story for Batman Begins, The Dark Knight, The Dark Knight Rises, Blade, the TV series, Krypton, the TV series, this show, Terminator Dark Fate, which actually was good. I like that movie. We can talk about Batman v Superman, which starred my daughter. Shall I say starred, even though she was only an extra in one scene, but still.
We'll go with starred.
We'll go with starred.
How's that?
Tim, as you were talking,
like $100 or something.
I was plus you got to craft lunch, but I was kind of catching a little interstellar vibe to the way you were describing it. Is that not right?
You're not too far off.
Okay, because you were talking about time travel and the whole kind of sciencey, nerdy kind of part of it.
It's not really time travel. There's just jumps in time in the story.
Got it.
So,
okay.
Yeah, that's not like they're jumping in time. They're just moving. They're trying to cram the story of 1,000 years into 10 episodes, as to what's happening. And so there's a lot of flashback scenes, and there's, because they're trying to tie so much in. But I never felt like in any of that when they were doing these flashback scenes or these jump forward scenes that it was in any way, shape, or form crammed in or lost, or that they were like making it fit. It just always, it seemed, it's a very seamless show.
David Goyer created one of my favorite shows that went nowhere. It only had one season, called Flash Forward. It was about everyone blacked out. Everyone blacked out and they could see the future. They saw 2 minutes in the future. And like when they blacked out, like planes would crash, like it was like a whole disaster. And everyone saw this one point in the future. Everyone did collectively. And it was this whole thing. And but then they canceled it. I don't know. Anyway, so it's, I liked his stuff, I guess is my point.
Yeah, I meant to bring up that Goyer was behind this because I wanted to bring up the fact that, the ties to the Dark Knight trilogy, especially. So it's just very, very well written. So
very cool. Very
I have to check it out. And I have to agree with what you said in the beginning that Apple TV Plus is they have very much upped their game from the original Ted Lasso anchor, which it still is, but there's a lot of great content wrapped around that now.
Oh yeah, absolutely. There's the new Tom Hanks movie, Finch. There's the other Tom Hanks movie from World War II, which that's been out for a while, but I still love that one. I can't remember the Grey Wolf or something like that. But I watch that quite often. I mean, oh god, the Invasion TV series that's on there.
I was into the
series, which I started a couple days ago. It's got a pretty good start to it. It's
I talked about a couple months back the M. Night series Servant on Apple TV Plus, which I thought was super interesting. Yeah, there's a lot of good stuff.
Hi, Tina.
Hey, Tina.
Tina.
Tina. Cool. And just for everyone listening, we are not paid by yet Apple TV or anybody
Yes.
that we.
I
Although Tim Cook,
happily-
are you listening?
Yeah,
I would
but,
happily welcome it. I'm
Jeff
All
is
Mac, just
desperate
saying.
for approval from his friends and family. Can you do something about that, Tim? Can you put Apple TV Plus on the bottom right-hand corner? Will that
Hey,
legitimize you,
great
Jeff?
job.
Will that make you feel better?
that would be good. Well, thank you, Tim.
Nice
that was
job, Tim.
Great.
Good
So
job,
that's
Tim.
the foundation, Maid, and now we're going to go to Thick of It from the BBC.
Ooh.
I have no idea what this is about, but our
Okay.
guest Bryan Green is going to talk us through it.
I think I can explain it best I'll summarize it in literally 2 sentences. It is a precursor written by and created by the same gentleman who I think created the best political satire of our generation, which is Veep. And so now take Veep and put it into the British government, right? Just take all the characters and all the isms and all the writing style, the cursing, the absolute crassness, and the speed at which this script moves and the actors moves is incredible. It's breakneck pace, and you have to have the subtitles on if you're not British, because you're not going to understand half of what they're saying. It revolves around a cast of characters inside of the parliament or inside of the British government that are in charge of what they call the British in charge of social and citizenship affairs, which is not a real, obviously it's not a real department in the British government. It's made up, but it allows for a lot of the different parts of the government to then be satirized inside of that. So it's a very broad definition of what they do. And what I really enjoy about the show is the characters that star in the first episode. There's only 22 episodes. The seasons are very short. There's like the first 3 seasons are only 3 episodes long. And then the 4th season has 8 episodes, and then there's a 5th season also. But the characters that come into the first episode are not around in the 4th episode. So there's like this revolving cast of characters as they move on, as the new government comes into power or the new party comes into power. They'll bring new characters in. And there's only a few people who stick around. And one of them is Peter Capaldi, who I think was Doctor Who. I think I read that he was the 12th Doctor Who. And he is the only character that stays throughout this show. And he is absolutely brilliant. And he has the biggest potty mouth I have ever seen on television. And he has said probably my favorite line in all of comedy television, which is come the fuck in or get the fuck out. Or no, come the fuck in or fuck the fuck off is what he says. It's what kind of like his catchphrase, come the fuck in or fuck the fuck off. And I just love this type of satire. I like British comedy. I don't know why. I think it's because I think their accents are interesting. But the fact that it's so whip smart, it's so incredibly fucking fast, and it's constantly changing. It's not set, it's not stuck, it's not stagnant. There's a new office every season, meaning they move to a different location every season. There's a new cast of characters every season, but it's all the same. It's grounded in the same sensibilities. It's grounded in the same type of satire. And really at the heart of it is this kind of political hunger that all of these politicians share, this hunger that all these politicians share to stay in power, and their willingness to do almost anything to stay there. Throw each other under the bus, make shit up, lie, steal, cheat, cover up murders. I mean, they just do it all in this show. There's no boundaries. There's no limit. And the guy who writes this is really deft at what he does. He really does a great job of writing this breakneck comedy that's super sharp and super smart. And I've enjoyed every minute of it. I still have 5 episodes to go. But it became a quick favorite of mine within the first 3 episodes. So if you're a fan of Veep or that style of comedy, this is the precursor to Veep. So this show ended in 2012. In 2012, he came over and did Veep on HBO. So it's very similar. I would say the only difference is that Veep sticks with the cast of characters the entirety of the show run, and it's a little slower. Like the pacing is much slower on Veep than it is on this thick of it. But if you're hankering for something that's just kind of ballsy, totally crass and funny, give it a try. You can get it on BritBox on Amazon Prime.
All right.
So, go ahead, Jeff, and I'll pick you back.
So Armando and Chuchi.
Armando Lanucci.
Oh, it's an L.
Lanucci.
So
yeah.
all right, did a quick.
And you'll clean it up.
I
Yeah.
did a quick Google, and it says the series Veep was created by Armando Lanucci as an
Lanucci.
adaptation of his sitcom The Thick of It.
I did not know that. So
Yeah.
it was, so it's like an American adaptation of that.
So
I can see how some
Veep
execs
is
at
the
HBO.
American version of The
Yeah.
Thick of It.
Exactly.
Boom. We just
There
broke
you
this
go.
wide open. I don't think this has ever been reported before. Right here.
Except
on
for
Fireside.
Wikipedia.
We're right here on Fireside. We're right here on YouTube. We're right here everywhere. News will spread.
Newsflash.
So I'm just going to pile in here that for me, I find British. First off, I love British humor anyway, but making fun of their style of government, I think, is just absolutely both fascinating and hilarious. There's a few different shows that do that very well, but
Yes.
I just have to say, on Wednesday nights here in America, you can see on YouTube and a couple other places the real Prime Minister's questions, which is where the House of Commons has a chance to address the Prime Minister himself and just fire unfiltered, just friggin' crazy ass questions at this Prime Minister, and he has to stand up there in front of the whole world and field them all.
Yes.
And it's as much art as it is knowledge, and just the way and style of responding. And it always struck me as so British and so formal and such a. I can't imagine any American president standing up there and getting hit like this, the way these Brits do to their own prime minister. And then you see a show like this, and you realize just the whole pomp and circumstance and formality of the British system itself, let alone the system of government. It's just ripe for satire like this. There's
really
so
is.
much to make fun of.
And it's funny how Armando kind of works in. I mean, I know that this is not necessarily funny, but you have to take it in context of the show. But at some point, the character Malcolm, who Peter is playing, is incredibly violent with his converse. Like, he is a cutthroat. He takes joy in other people's misery, and he's in charge of some things. So he brings a couple of ladies into the office who have messed up on something or the other, and he says, I'm about to unload on you ladies, and I'm going to use some words that some might consider sexually violent, and I just want to make sure that's okay with you before I get started. Good? All right. And it's like, it's not like sexual violence is not funny, right? If it's not wanted. But then, the way that he says this, there's a politeness to what he's about to get into, and then he just rips off the covers. And I will say also, one of my favorite parts about this show is the interaction between the government officials and the press, who also play a big role in this. I mean, the press I guess this is true. I'm assuming it's true. The press inside of the British government actually has offices inside of the British government buildings, just like our press corps does at the White House. But the way that they interact with each other and the kind of tiptoeing that they do around each other to make sure that, they swap stories. Hey, if you put this on the front page, I'll give you him, right? If you take me off the front page, I'll give you his shit.
Yeah.
And it's just really well written. It's really funny, just like Veep is. It's really.
I'll have to check it out. This is the first time hearing of it. It sounds great, actually.
Yeah, same here.
Yeah,
Now that we've
randomly fell
discovered
upon
the
it.
show that Veep is based on, I feel we all have to go. This is mandatory
watching. Yeah.
No, I'll definitely be checking it out. British humor is always welcome in our household. One of my wife and I, every once in a while, are just like, you know what, today's a good day for death at a funeral. Let's watch that.
Yeah.
And that's
And as we've talked about on previous shows, you probably want to watch this with subtitles on, right, Brian?
Oh, you will not get through the first 3 minutes. You'll rewind 16 times in the first 3 minutes. It is so fast. You have to read most of it. And there is a fair amount of this that is very geared at British pop culture and society. So just make yourself a deal before you start watching it. I will not understand some of this, right?
Yeah.
And just assume that it's funny when it happens. Just assume whatever you're saying about whatever particular person is funny when they're saying it. But I'd say 75% of it is certainly translatable no matter where you are.
I think subtitles are just a must in general. They
I
actually
agree.
add a lot. And Ron, I actually have the subtitles on for Get Back. They do subtitle natural. They do actually put baked in subtitles to some of it, but
Yeah.
I subtitle
Yeah.
the whole thing. I think it helps. And I even watched Hawkeye and it helps. Like I'll read something. I'm like, that just happened.
Yeah, I'm with you.
Either I'm
Like,
going deaf and like, that's why I love
Yeah.
subtitles, or they're just really great and you miss a lot. Anyway, but that was awesome, Brian.
Nice job,
Thank
Brian.
you. Thanks,
Well
guys.
done, sir. And before you move on, just kudos on the Etta James album in the background, by the way.
Thank you. We have a couple. We switch them out in the studio. This is where we record the podcast, and we switch them out when we get a hankering. And Ed has been up there for about a month, so it's one of our favorites.
I dig it. That's a great album.
You can't see, but you can. If I move my Fireside camera, can you see that all my vinyl?
Oh yeah, look at that.
That's a lot of vinyl over there. I see.
Yeah, I
that.
got a whole stack.
You're a
Oh,
little
yeah.
vinyl
A friend of mine
rat
gave me
I
like
am.
all his
Yeah.
vinyl from growing up. He's like, "Here, you want this?" I'm like, "Look, it's like Purple Rain, all these." I'm like, "Okay." Like, I
Sure, I want
it
Purple
down
Rain
for
on
you. I'm like,
vinyl. Yeah. And
Now,
original
now you
press.
just need a record player, Jeff.
No, I have a record.
It's right under all these
I'm-
papers.
I just have to like.
Kidding. That's a joke.
My favorite thing is to go to a record. All right, we'll do a vinyl discussion at a different time. Let's
That'd be great.
do our final one,
with you
and
on
then
that.
if anyone at Fireside, maybe this one is since this show aired yesterday, live in front of a studio audience. Just feel free to chime in, raise your hand. I'd love to hear. But so this is fun. Let me just click on a few things here. Okay, so live in front of a studio audience is, I think, like this brilliant thing that Jimmy Kimmel and Norman Lear do. And you guys haven't seen any of these. Are you
No.
familiar with them?
No,
Didn't even know it was a
I'm
thing.
familiar with them, but I haven't watched them. I know what you're
It's a
talking
thing.
about.
So live TV has been a thing lately. Though they started with the plays, right? The musicals, the Sound of Music and Grease and all that. And Annie was just done as well. And so as part of this live TV phenomenon, Jimmy Kimmel, I guess, got together, let's say, with Norman Lear and decided to bring some of the classic sitcoms back to life with current day actors. So basically think of the first one that they did, which was in May of 2019. They did All in the Family and the Jeffersons. All in the Family, working class Caucasian family living in Queens. Archie Bunker, Carol Connor, Gene Stapleton. You guys are familiar with the original show, right?
Yeah,
Of course.
oh, very.
Yeah.
And then they also did an episode of The Jeffersons. And, that's George and Wheezy and African-American
Moving on
couple,
up.
right? Which was a sequel to. The interesting thing about Norman Lear is every one of his shows is one show. And then there's 50 of the shows that everyone knows is just mainstay, amazing sitcoms, were just spin-offs.
Yeah,
of-
he just
of
kept
these other
spinning off shows. Yeah.
So
Mhm.
in the very first one, they did All in the Family and 2 episodes. And it was like done like a stage play. They literally recreate the set. Woody Harrelson became Carol O'Connor. He kind of did an impression of Carol O'Connor. Marissa Tomei was Edith and freaking nailed it. She was like, she was Edith. And, you had, let's see, you had Ellie Kemper. That's Kimmy Schmidt was Gloria.
Yeah.
And then, so I'm not going to read off every single person, but so they literally would take a script as is and they just did it. So one of the amazing things was how amazing and still timely these stories that they would tell then are relevant today. Right. And the episode they did was one where with George Jefferson. So Jamie Foxx was George Jefferson in this
Nice.
episode of All in the Family. And then Wanda Sykes was Wheezy and Kerry Washington was Helen. Will Ferrell was Tom. I mean, they got like top name people, right? I think Will Ferrell is one of the producers with the Gary Sanchez thing he does. And so they did that. And then Jamie Foxx they did an episode of the Jeffersons. The other interesting thing is they go to town. They go all out with the theme songs. Like I think Jennifer Hudson sang "Moving On Up." Woody Harrelson and Marissa Tomei did the All in the Family one because they did it just like the opening of the show.
Oh wow!
But so it's just great. It's fun because it's fun watching them kind of imitate the characters while paying homage and doing all this. And then some of the original, if there were any original cast, like Florence who played Maid, I'm blanking on her name, but she actually was in the Jeffersons episode, that kind of thing. So that was a big success. And then
Sally Struthers isn't in
no,
it.
she wasn't in it. Rob Reiner wasn't there either. But and so flash forward to December, same year, 2019, they do All in the Family again. And then they had Kevin Bacon was in it, big names, right? So they do and then they do a Good Times episode. They had Andre Braugher was James, the father. Viola Davis was Florida. Tiffany Haddish was Fiona. Is that her name? And then Jay Farrow was JJ. And then John Amos was actually one of the characters in one of the other characters. He didn't play himself from it. And so that was super cool as well. And so it became a thing. And then last night, December 7th, 2021, they did it again. But this time they went with Facts of Life and Different Strokes. Okay. All Norman Lear shows. So, Norman Lear, amazing. Just the other shows that I didn't mention were Maude, Sanford and Son, One Day at a Time, Silver Spoons, 227, Mary Hartman. So just to name a few. So he's created some of by the way, so Norman Lear is there. He's 99 years old. We should all look as good at 99. Even sporting a ponytail. Lisa. So yesterday's they start with an episode of Facts of Life. Lisa Whelchel, who played the original Blair, comes out in the costume, in the uniform that they wore, and she sang the theme song. When I tell you, she's 58, it didn't look like a day had passed. Like she could have, amazing. Okay, it was like anyway. So that was really cool. And then this was like they're even even more like Jennifer Aniston played Blair, Gabrielle Union was Tootie, Catherine Hahn was Joe, who was hilarious. Wow. She was from
who played Tootie.
Tootie was Gabrielle Union, and then Will Arnett, and Jason Bateman and Jon Stewart played.
My gosh, this thing has everybody.
Right. So it was a Kids Can Be Cruel episode, and that was the theme. That was the title of the episode, and somebody does something, and they mess with
somebody's meeting somebody. Yeah.
Oh, Blair told the boy that I had a crush on him, so I'm going to get him back, and set her up with the dork, and then life lesson, because he turns out to be really, really nice and all that kind of stuff. So, but the winner of the night, the winner of the night was Ann Dowd. Ann Dowd was in The Handmaid's Tale, which I haven't seen, but she was a horrible, horrible person in The Handmaid's Tale.
Amazing. She's amazing in The Handmaid's Tale.
So she was Miss Garrett. When I tell you, you've never seen a channeling like this. You would have thought she was there. And she was in both episodes because Miss Garrett came from Different Strokes, which was the second. They did that second, but right, she came from Different Strokes. And then Facts of Life was a spinoff of Different Strokes. But so she pulled double duty like Jamie Foxx did. I don't think anyone walked away from that not thinking she completely won the night. Of all the people there, she was really the only one that channeled the person she was the best. Catherine Hahn was hilarious. My only casting change, I think Kaylee Cuoco would have been a better Blair than Jennifer Aniston. But it was really cool. And the Different Strokes one was great. It was sad in the beginning because Todd, why am I blanking on all this? Todd,
the guy who died recently.
No, he didn't die. He was on TV yesterday. But Todd, the person who played Willis, I had her written down. I can't find it.
Yeah.
He was there. He's the only surviving cast member. Dana Plato died, right? Everyone else in that cast has passed away, and he was the only one left. But he was
Todd
there.
Bridges.
Todd Bridges.
Bridges.
Todd Bridges.
Yeah.
Thank you so
Yeah.
much. But so this one was Kevin Hart was Arnold. It was Gary Coleman's character, and then and you had I must have. Hang on, guys.
Jeff, where do you see this show?
ABC. Wasn't it on ABC?
It was on ABC last night. Oh,
So
no
how does
wonder.
one stream
Maybe
it?
Disney Plus.
There's an ABC app. Sorry, I had my different strokes notes on a different sheet.
Yeah.
That's what I couldn't find. John Lithgow was Mr. Drummond. Kevin Hart was Arnold. Damon Wayans was Willis. Snoop Dogg was the friend, Vernon. And then Boyz II Men did the theme song. Todd Bridges. Here I have it written down. I knew I had it somewhere. And it was really cool. But it was funny because, Kevin Hart's short. And so it was, so he was Arnold. And like at one point he sits on John Lithgow's lap. And it was pretty funny. But it's nostalgic and it's really fun. It's not done campy. It's done out of respect for the shows themselves, but it's done so it's fun because it's live and anything can go wrong. And these people don't practice forever. These are huge stars. It just
they got 2 weeks to kind of get it all together
and do it. The interesting thing is that when you think about these shows, like how much theme songs really played into things, because each one of these shows, Different Strokes, Facts of Life, The Jeffersons, All in the Family, Good Times, each one of them have such a memorable theme song. Iconic, right? And so here's the other funny thing that they did with Ryan Reynolds' production company. They created a series of 80s style commercials. They were just humorous 80s style commercials that ran. And they also did 80s style commercials of the shows that are literally on ABC now, but they did it in an 80s style. Okay. And so they had Alfonso Ribeiro, Jennifer Beals, Bob Vila. And so they were doing all these old commercials for Kool-Aid and Heinz ketchup and Jack in the Box. And the commercials itself were hilarious. And then they had Alan Hunter and Nina Blackwood from MTV, the voiceovers. But it was Ryan Reynolds and his team that wrote all of them. So that was really cool. It was really cool. But anyway, if you love those shows and any of the actors, it's definitely kind of a fun.
And how long are these?
Sorry. Last night's was an hour and a half. So it's not they're originally 30-minute shows, but they, with the commercials and a little bit of the in-between stuff, they don't turn into a 3-hour event for an hour.
So what did Todd Bridges, what did he show up for? Was he in the show as kind of a cameo, or did he just? No,
in his role in this one, he just kind of introduced it and paid tribute to his former co-stars. So it was nice.
I think we're all probably of the same age category, right? So we probably all grew up watching
20s,
these late 20s, watching these television programs in our younger days as we were growing up, as we were kids. And I was thinking the other day just about something you mentioned, how I could probably still hum 90% of the theme songs to the shows that I watched in that time period. Cheers, Different Strokes. I mean, all of them, right? We could hum those songs because they're kind of drilled into our heads, but they played an important role, I think, in how we viewed the show or how much we liked the show. I don't really get the sense that happens too much anymore. I mean, I think there are a few iconic theme songs we could probably think of lately, but I don't think it's something that's really paid attention to because there are no opening credits anymore, right? It's just you get into the show. There's an intro that might be 15 or 16 seconds long, and then it's moving on. But I think that's a great point that you make, Jeff, is they focused on something that was so important to those television shows. And now that that piece is missing, it's gone. Us of a certain age where we kind of straddle that gap, we can see just how important those theme songs were at that time.
That's a great point.
Yeah,
absolutely.
I for no reason, I'll go Dr. David Bruce Banner, physician, scientist, searching for a way to tap into the hidden strength that most humans have. Then an accidental overdose of camera. And they're like, don't make
No, keep going. Don't.
I did not know this. Speaking of Different Strokes, and I know this might be a little bit off topic, but I did not know that Dana Plato had committed suicide a day after being on the Howard Stern show, after an interview on the Howard Stern show.
Yeah,
until
I
very
think.
recently.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Interestingly enough, the episode they did yesterday, I think it was from season 3, but her character wasn't even in the episode, so there was no one
There was no one playing her.
portraying her.
Yeah. Interesting.
Interesting.
Yeah, but
Hmm.
that's
Take
all
care,
I
Jeff.
got. This is
I'm gonna
this
go
was a
and
good
watch
episode,
it.
guys.
You've made me want to watch this now. I didn't really have an interest in watching it. I was kind of like, this cheesy kind of, I like Jimmy Kimmel, and I like, he's one of my favorite late night guys, but the commercials and the promos never got me excited about it. It just kind of seemed like, oh, it's another Annie or another Sound of Music, which we can say that most of those are kind of objectively not so good, right? They're just really ratings grab, I think. A holiday season ratings grab.
I think I'm interested in going back and watching it, if nothing else, for the nostalgia feels.
Yeah.
And if that's it, and I know that's probably what they're hoping to tap into, but if they achieve that, then I'll be happy that I watched it. But I am interested in seeing it.
I think you'll enjoy it. I give it 2 thumbs up. Thanks,
Nice.
Fireside.
Nice.
Double Jeffs.
I did enjoy, I have to say, Beauty and the Beast. I thought that was actually pretty good. But
Did they do their live? I think some of the live, when they did Rent, it was good. I mean,
yeah,
they've
they did
done some
Rent
good
also.
ones.
Yeah, they've had some
I
good
did
ones.
see the Rent one, and I agree
Jesus
with you.
Christ Superstar, I thought was pretty good with
That was amazing with John Legend.
John Legend. Yeah.
Yeah.
So cool. All right. Well, this was a great show. I appreciate you guys hanging with us.
Thanks, Jeff.
Bryan, remind everyone where they can find you.
www.tcbpodcast.com. You can find us on all the podcast publishers or on youtube.com/the commercial break. And if you have me in your fantasy podcast league, I hope it's to be the first one out. I'm not sure what that is, but
very cool.
Okay,
So,
there you go.
thanks.
Well,
Jeff.
if you got drafted there, it clearly wasn't your family or friends, because podcast.
They have no idea.
Tim, tell everyone where they can keep up with you.
So Pop Culture Addicts is my new show, but you can check me out on anywhere you get your favorite podcast providers. That whole line that we always say anytime we tell people. But again, you can check me out at on YouTube for Pop Culture Addicts, Funny Science Fiction, and Focused on Forward. Those are all available on YouTube and your favorite podcast destinations.
Say goodnight, Ron.
Nice. Wednesday nights, 9:30, Crossing the Streams, and as featured guests on podcasts near you. Good to see you.
Good to see you too. And then I am Jeff Dwoskin, host of Live from Detroit, the Jeff Dwoskin Show. Just search me up. Just Google it. It'll come up everywhere. You'll love it.
Jeff,
Yeah.
do you have a podcast?
I have a podcast.
Mm.
All right.
Okay, just checking.
We'll see you next time. Thanks, everyone.
Bye, guys.
Goodbye.
And that has been another episode of Crossing the Streams. Join us every Wednesday at 9:30 p.m. Eastern Time, live on Facebook and YouTube. Follow the Jeff Dwoskin Show on YouTube to be alerted every time we go live with your hosts, Jeff Dwoskin, Ron Lippett, Howard Rosner, Bob Phillips, Sal D'Amelio. We're all in the socials. Follow us. Listen to our podcasts, Live from Detroit, the Jeff Dwoskin Show, the Sal and Bob Show. Check them all out, and we'll see you next week and every week when we cross more streams right here. See you.